Hello, you're listening to COVID Tinted Glasses with Georgina. I'll be speaking to people from all around the world about their unique experiences of the pandemic, the good, the bad, the beautiful and the downright ugly, covering topics like friendship, family, travel, work, mental health and finding love. If you'd like to join me for a chat, then get in touch at georgina_podcast@outlook.com. Welcome to COVID Tinted Glasses. I'm Georgina and I'm joined by New Zealander Yvette Adams, who now lives in the Sunshine Coast, Australia. She's a social media guru, traveller, writer, mother and a very old friend. Welcome, Yvette.
Hello, George. Nice to connect again.
Yeah, it's so nice to actually see you on the video. Obviously, you won't be able to see us in the podcast, but it's just so lovely to see you. So how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I feel like things are brightening up and there's light at the end of this long, dark COVID tunnel and over this end is how I'd summarise.
Excellent. That's really lovely to hear. So just as a little introduction, can you tell us how you ended up on the Sunshine Coast, a bit about your gang and also a bit about kind of what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in New Zealand till I was 21 years old, and then I left to see the world, and that's where I met you in Honduras, as you'll remember. But I used London as a base for 7 years, and then I had my son over there in 2004, and I thought I would stay. I was the editor of a newspaper. I was really established, had my group of friends, including you, and then, a flatmate moved out, a job changed, things got a bit tough, and we sort of missed family. And you often need your wider family around you to raise a child. You know, they say it takes a village, and I guess it does. I also had great friends there. They were going to come back at some point. So, it was quite a transient place, or can be, London. So when I looked to where we were coming back to, my family were actually living part-time on the Sunshine Coast. So they were doing 6 months here, 6 months New Zealand, and my brother was here. So there was a bit of a hook to come to the Sunshine Coast. So we came, and Rio's dad, my son's Rio, liked it. The weather was good. Properties were within our reach to buy, and we got a job opportunity pretty quickly. So that made us stay. And here I am, however many years later, 17, 18 years later, still here. Yeah.
And now you run three different companies?
I do, yeah. So how that came about was I had my second child, Matisse, in 2007, and I just sort of wound up being the marketing manager for a company called Wildly Wealthy Women. It's actually a really cool business to fall into when I first arrived, because they taught me so much about finance and property and superannuation and just even the whole Australian system, because I had come from New Zealand and I knew that system, working and being employed. Then I went to the UK and I knew that system, but I didn't know the Aussie system, and no one had ever actually explained to me, finance on those different levels, tax perspectives, asset protection, building wealth through property, etc. So that was a really great experience, and a lot of it I can attribute to what I've done since. But the Creative Collective was the first one in terms of businesses that happened since I've been here that I'm still running. So I'd had my baby girl, Matisse, in 2007, and I'd been the main breadwinner, and we weren't really earning enough as a family to kind of live off. So first I got an exchange student in, and that was like, cool, that gets some money coming in. And then, to be honest, it was a bit of necessity. I needed money, but also I wanted to work as well. I wasn't going to be one of those mums that went to, mums and bubs groups and drunk cups of coffee and that was enough for me. I felt I needed a bit more than that. So yeah, the Creative Collective started off being a full service creative agency. So doing websites and branding and, it wasn't social media then, but that came very soon after, about a year later. But search engine optimization, pay per click, etc. And all of those things I had a little bit of experience in, but there was certainly a lot of learning on the job. And then very quickly as we grew, getting people who knew a whole lot more than me about the things that I couldn't do, and growing it from there. So fast forward to today, that business is 13 staff, and we've got offices in Newcastle and Sunshine Coast. And what else? Like clients all over the world, lots around Australia. And it's, a fairly large operation these days. It's about 40 contractors as well. So a team of about 50 if you count all of them too. Then the second business, the Training Collective, that was a spin-off of the Creative Collective, and it came because Creative Collective, people started saying, oh, can you make me a website? But then can you train me on how to use it? I want to update it. Or social media, can you show me how I can make content and you do the ads or something like that? And we went, sure, we're happy to train you. So, yeah, that quickly became its own business. And then it was 2014, and I'd been running as a franchise. And one of the really successfully running franchises was Katrina Lee's in Newcastle. So she was having her first child, and we decided to go into business together. So we're now 50% shareholders in Creative Collective, and Training Collective I retained, and that's how it became a sort of spin-off company. But we're very much sister companies. So Training Collective sometimes wins clients, and then when they want the service, we refer them to Creative Collective, and vice versa. Sometimes we do the service, then we refer them for training. So it's pretty cool. And there's a third business called awardshub.com, which is helping people find business awards to enter and entering them into them. There has been a little bit of a hiatus on some business awards programs around the world for this year. A lot haven't gone ahead, or they've gone to an online format, or they've changed their categories and recognized, resilience and strength and things like that through this period of COVID and restrictions, which has obviously had a lot of upheaval. But yeah, that business is still running as well, but that would be the smaller of the three operations that I'm running. Yeah.
So yeah, you're very, very busy. And just to explain to people, the Sunshine Coast, so we're actually on Brisbane time, aren't we, where you are? So the Sunshine Coast is part of Queensland. So I want to say the northeast of Australia.
Yes, the northeast. Queensland's a big state, so you can fly 3 hours and you're still in Queensland. So we're sort of at the bottom of Queensland, but it's still 3 hours to get to the border driving.
Wow.
Yeah, but we're an hour north of Brisbane. So if people know Brisbane, that gives them context where we are. And actually, we're all in the same time zone as Sydney and Melbourne as of last weekend. We the only state that doesn't have daylight savings, but thank God that's gone, because you've got to switch when you're dealing with the different states usually.
Yeah, so that's good. So it's a bit easier now. So because of how your company is set up and your life, has the pandemic affected your businesses? I know you mentioned the Awards Hub one has been a bit affected, but what about Creative Collective and the training business?
Yeah, quite a lot. It's been quite a journey. So I'll touch on Creative Collective first. So I remember the date, March 23rd. We told everyone work from home, and we actually pulled the trigger on that pretty early compared to others. But because I do have so many international networks, because I did at the time do quite a lot of training with Facebook, and they obviously have a really, significant global operation, and I'm just interested in the world and news and so on, I went, this is bad. This is really bad, and we need to, take a hard line and be very safe very quickly. So we told the staff work from home, and I think it was another week or two after that others did that. That part was fine for us. We're really well set up for it. I've been fully cloud since 2009, and so it was very seamless in that regard. But what was the challenge was clients going. So at the time, we had a lot of travel and tourism clients. We loved working with that sector because I'm a traveller, and it's fun and they're great clients. It's easy to promote. But all of them, and fair enough, were saying, we're tanking, so we need to stop all our services with you immediately. So we actually went down 40% revenue within a month. And, that's significant when you're running an operation of this size. So it was pretty stressful. And the best we could do to manage and lead through that period was lean on 3 values we have for our company. We've developed our brand values, just 3 words. They are kindness and trust and respect. So we said to our team, we had a crisis online call with all the contractors and all the team. We want to look after everyone. We want to be as kind as we can. We want you to trust us and the decisions we may have to make. And some of them might not be nice, but we've got to do what's best for the company. And we hope you'll respect us for that approach, basically. So we asked 2 staff to go down to 4 days a week, but otherwise everyone's roles remained intact. And we asked everyone, what can you sacrifice to help us get through this difficult period? Because we've literally had, 40% come off our top line, and we need to lose that on the bottom line. I myself, as the landlord, because I own the commercial property, pretty much took the rent down to the mortgage level. So it was just meeting minimum payments. But everybody did stuff, like people worked extra, people worked less, people found subscriptions that they could save money on. So everyone was amazing, and I think that approach worked really well. So that was the impact on Creative Collective at that time. Training, obviously, in terms of in-person, just shut down. Like, we couldn't run in-person training. So that was a huge part of our income. And then working with Facebook at the time, they just took everything online. At the time, we actually had a series of events and a travel schedule all mapped out. We were literally on the road, going around helping all the people who had experienced the Aussie bushfires in January 2020.
Yes.
The bushfire recovery. So we were, going in, Facebook T-shirt, we're here to help. Here's how to use these tools. Here's how to rebuild your business. And then these poor people, and, especially the tourism travel businesses, were then facing COVID as well. So anyway, they were the impacts. And then we had a plan for, if we lose 50% or 60% of the business, these staff might have to go and these changes might have to be made. And we actually had a plan that would end up being just myself and my business partner again. If we have to go back to that ground zero, we will. If we can still keep the company, then that's great. So what we went, 60% was the worst in April. We went back up to 70%, 80% trading. But this was all careful sort of planning as well. So we targeted different industries. So we started targeting not-for-profit sector, medical sector, sectors that we knew would sort of stand the test of COVID. Obviously, hotels and hospitality were deeply affected. We had clients in that space. But look, pleased to report, fast forward to now, we recovered. We got back to 90%, 100% within, say, 4 months. I think once the initial shock was over, everyone kind of came back. And then now a year on, almost to the day, we're experiencing record growth. So we're now up 50% on our best month ever as of the last month. So I feel like people have been forced to do digital transformation and now going, I know I need a good website now and I'm prepared to spend on it. Or I know I need to get my social media or SEO or PPC sorted. And they're spending money. So that's awesome. Training Collective is still a bit down and we're keeping an eye on competitors and what they're doing. A lot are not started the in-person trainings again. We have, but we have really, spacious rooms and try and have lots of things in place to stay safe. But that business is still affected. And in Aussie, we have a thing called JobKeeper. So if you've lost a lot of income, you're eligible for some government assistance. Across Australia, that finished last month. So this is our first month of trading without that assistance, but Training Collective was eligible for it right through because of the impact on the business. So it's, I guess you could say, one's very much out of the woods and powering along, Creative Collective, and Training Collective it's doing okay. It's hanging in there, but it's hard to activate a training business that had an in-person model, and we do have online, but you don't get as much revenue from that typically. People don't want to pay the same fee, so we're still working through those challenges.
So I suppose the thing you get from the government, what was it called?
There's multiple incentives, but that particular one, which was very popular and I guess kept quite a lot of Aussie businesses afloat, was called JobKeeper, and it was a top-up subsidy from the government to subsidise wages and help businesses get through that period. Yeah.
I think we had something called the furlough scheme where the government paid 80% of people's wages, but they, I don't think were meant to be actually working for the company, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But I mean, obviously in the nations of the UK, because we're now all functioning slightly differently, England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. I mean, England, we only literally, as of the 12th of April, are we on the 12th of April? Oh, no, I'm ahead of myself. As of the 29th of March, so last week, 6 people were allowed to meet outside, or 2 households. So, and then on the 12th of April, non-essential retail, hair is opening and all that kind of thing. Wow. So we've been looking across, down under, so to speak, with quite jealous, but actually things haven't been that easy, have they, from what you're saying?
Well, I guess it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, in business, that was quite tough, but, I count myself as one of the lucky ones that we could transition seamlessly. We have been able to recover and we can keep our head above water with Training Collective. There's plenty of businesses that have gone under, or they're saying sort of now, with this being month 1 of no support, may go under. So there is that. Then at the same time, we've got a property boom going on, which no one anticipated. and rent's gone through the roof as well. So we were fortunate to buy a new house in January, but it took us a good year of looking, and we almost felt like we had to hurry up because it was going to be out of reach if we didn't hurry up because of the way the growth was going. But in my local area, and I believe it to be the same in other locations, and I've heard New Zealanders too, homelessness is getting to record levels, and they're having crisis talks on that because people literally can't afford the rent, may have lost a job. So there's a lot of social impact, which is awful. And then I guess on the daily living, like you're talking about, hair and, social gatherings, we have been lucky. Melbourne, not so much. They've been in full had a couple of really long lockdowns that have been quite severe and restrictive. Here in Queensland, we had a period for 2 or 3 months last year, I think from like March till June. I think it was 5th of June, I remember dates, that I was allowed to go out for dinner again. And I think we went out for dinner like weekly thereafter just because we could, and it was so exciting. But it hasn't, we had a 3-day lockdown the other day in Brisbane, but this is so tiny compared to what you guys have had to endure.
Yeah, I heard about that. That must have been quite a shock because I think that like you were all feeling like life was getting back to normal, but you are still wearing masks outside the house.
Yes, so I just went to the grocery store this evening to grab a couple of things for dinner, and yes, it's gone. Get the petrol, mask on. And I'm really impressed with Queenslanders. I went to the main shopping mall, was quite busy over the Easter break, but everybody's wearing masks, which it's quite a weird feeling when you're not used to it, hey, because we look at the TV and go, oh, there's overseas and there's Melbourne, but now we're doing it and we're living that mask, and everyone's getting into the funky masks like they do. Like, they all start off as the surgical mask, and now it's all like fashion statements.
I keep we've been getting the camper van ready, so I've been going out in that, and I'd only had the surgical mask available, so I look like a really extreme with my surgical mask on when I was getting the camper van set up, which was quite funny because of course we're going into summer in the next couple of months, and you guys will be going a bit more into the autumn weather. Do you think that will affect things a bit?
Well, it does sound like the COVID likes the cold, doesn't it? I shouldn't say COVID, I sound like a person who's not informed. This COVID issue, it seems it likes cold. So I don't know. We are having a laggy vaccine rollout, and that is a little concerning. Apparently there's supply issues. Like I also look to England and I see like grandparents of friends getting the second vaccine, like they're all done now. And here people are going to start getting them in a couple of weeks. Really only, as far as I know, health workers have had them so far. Yeah.
And back to kind of going into the office, are you guys actually going into the office again, or are you still working from home primarily?
Yeah, we do go into the office, but and we used to have a flexible working, conditions and have pajama days. And that was if you like have a delivery or you've had a late night and you're just feeling a bit off, but you're totally able to work, you could work from home. And we used to say 5 days of that a year, in addition to sick leave and other things. But now we're like, if you feel like mental health wise or just you've got a lot on, stay home. Like if you feel like a bit sick, stay home, because we don't want to risk it being something. So yeah, that's but that's such a balance, right? Because then you still pay rent and make an office available, and then there's no culture if no one's going in. But it was really interesting, the whole COVID thing, because some staff went, do we even need an office? Why don't we just not have an office anymore? Let's get rid of the office. But there were others. I actually had a staff member come to my house through the lockdown, though she wasn't supposed to, and she broke down in tears and she said, I am so lonely. Coming into the office is my happy place. She said, I've got young children and I can't just talk to young children all day. I need to talk to adults. And I gave her a big cuddle and we drank a bottle of wine together and all was good again. But that made me really realise the impact of it on some people and how different we are. Some say, I'm fine to work at home and please, can we get rid of the office forever? Whereas for others, that's their happy place and they need the office to come to feel like they're connected to people and having that social aspect.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I think I will really struggle when I actually have to go back to the office, because I'm one of the ones where I'm happy at home. But a lot of people don't feel like that. You're right. And so all the shops are open. You're getting all your hair done, and you can do face-to-face training, but you're doing it at 2 meter distance, so to speak.
Observe social distancing, have sanitizer there, tell people not to come if they're sick, packaged food, like we're taking all the precautions we can think to take, but it doesn't make it foolproof, does it? Like it could, I'd hate for something to happen. It's interesting looking at competitor sites and going, wow, they're not doing any until the vaccine's fully rolled out. That's interesting approach. It's pretty hard line.
But, I mean, you don't have that many numbers of coronavirus in Queensland though, do you?
There are some. I don't know the current stats. When I was following them, but it is pretty minimal. Yeah, there was these cases recently, but the fact that they did the 3-day lockdown, opened it right before Easter, says to me they think they've got it under control. And I guess we've got to have an element of trust there in our state government, because we have state governments and national or federal, they call them. And then, they've just opened up New Zealand as of yesterday for the 19th of April, which is so amazing. I've been hanging out for. That's something I've personally really struggled with because I'm a traveller and my family's here, but my friends are there, and I've just pined for them and taken for granted the ability to just pop on over for a friend's birthday, or it's like another city. It's the same distance to Melbourne for me, so I'm desperate to get on that plane and get over there. And I think it'll make a lot of Aussies and Kiwis happy. They can have a holiday with each other.
Yeah, and I think that's something for us to understand. So the location of where you are is perfect to just nip across to New Zealand. So so I mean that's it. Literally is just going for a weekend break, as opposed to we would in London to Paris or something like that. It's that close. So that would be really exciting, because of course in New Zealand I'm hoping to speak to some people over there. They've been having the most wonderful time. I've been seeing street parties.
It's biggest sellout 50,000 crowd ever, like that kind of
50,000. I'm so I mean, I was speaking to Matt in New York last week, and he went out to dinner. I mean, they were outside, but they were out to dinner in a restaurant. And I was like, what? You are eating outside in a, because at the moment we have been literally getting takeaways, but you can't eat near the restaurant, if you see what I mean. You have to take it home. So we're chomping at the bit in the UK. All the nations are of the UK.
How long have you been? You've been since before Christmas, isn't it? Like 4 months.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm in a bubble with mum, so I've been able to go and see her and stuff like that. But a lot of people, literally last weekend was the first time they could see their family outside since before Christmas, because we were going to have Christmas was going to be like an amnesty period of time where everyone was going to be allowed to meet up. But then, of course, that's when the cases started to really increase. So everything got shut down. And I remember I'd actually already gone up to stay with my mum, who I was in my bubble with. And literally later on that afternoon, they cancelled this kind of period of time. So, I was very fortunate. But a lot of my friends literally have just started to see their family last weekend. And although, I mean, I say that the first lockdown was really extreme. Literally, I didn't even go right outside my house to the main road. I literally went left through the park, and I met friends to go running with, one other person, and that was it. But that was pre-dog, and I was working quite hard. And now I've got Rudy the puppy. I realised that having a dog is a very social thing, because you meet everyone wants to talk to you about your dog. So it is different now, even though we still have been in lockdown. I think everyone's got a lot more confident about what they can do and where they can go, and out and about and stuff like that. So that's really good. But yeah, so I mean, I did notice that you were actually stayed in a hotel, and I remember at the time, I think it was quite a long time ago, I was like, oh my god, Yvette's staying in a hotel. How is that even possible?
If it's the one I'm thinking, that was February, and that was a client, and they tried to open all through last year and could not. So the poor buggers had to wait like 9 months to finally open. And you can imagine they're still paying staff, they're still keeping it up, they're still getting ready to launch it for 9 months, and then they just couldn't launch it. But they finally did, and we finally got to go, and that was pretty cool. But they also have, I don't know, a few things different from COVID. That's just the new world we live in now, isn't it? I don't think it will ever be the same completely again.
Yeah, I mean, and will you be happy getting on a flight? Would that worry you or anything?
Well, through the period, I did go up. It was you were able to travel within Queensland, but not interstate at the time. And we went to look at a property within the state on a flight. it was a really weird feeling, and you got on it and you thought, there's no social distancing going on here. Everyone wore the mask. You got off, everyone was marshaled. So it was very militant, the whole experience, and it did feel a little bit uneasy. Like, do I really want to look at this property? Maybe I should have done it, on FaceTime or something, but then it's not the same, is it? And I'm glad I did go and look, because it was a really bad property, and I'm really glad I didn't buy it and I didn't look at it online. But I have caught a flight, but not nearly as many flights as I used to have. Here's some irony. I became Qantas Silver status the day we locked down. I got it in the mail and went, great, won't be using that and those extra perks.
Oh, no. And I suppose another thing for us to remember how big Queensland is. It's not like, if you drove from one end to the other, it would take hours, 8 hours? Or
3-hour flight to Cairns and you're not at the top, and it's a 3-hour flight inland to Mount Isa and you're not all the way out west. And similarly, you can go 2.5 east and you're at Vanuatu, a completely different country. So it is vast. It's absolutely huge, Queensland. It's hard to, flight times, I guess, are the best way to explain it.
Yeah, and also it means that the flights are kind of essential travel. It's not, you couldn't get to those places. Well, you could, but it would take a lot longer, wouldn't it? So yeah. I suppose that's why. So what's the thing I think I know the answer to this. What's the one thing that you are most looking forward to doing when things get even more back to normal?
I think going to New Zealand and going to England and giving my friends a big fat hug. And I think I'll be a big sook and there'll be a lot of tears, and I'll just be it'll mean so much more, won't it? Like, I took for granted getting on planes, and my whole social life, to be perfectly honest, was set up that I didn't have so many friends on the Sunshine Coast, because when I traveled to different cities for work, I'd see my friends then. So it's really made me go, I've got to actually make some friends where I live. This is crazy. Like, I can't just be talking on the phone all the time to people elsewhere. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing my mates, basically.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree with you. So what else? So one last question then before we finish off. So if you could talk to yourself now, 12 months before, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, these are good questions. Well done. I think I would say lean on those values you came up with. They'll hold you in good stead, and hang in there. It's going to get better. And what else?
What were the values again? What were your company brand values? I thought they were fantastic.
Trust, kindness, and respect. And they are so simple, but they work so well. We lean on them for any decision or any tough times or even good times. Like, even today we lent on them. There's a client being a bit difficult, and it's like, he doesn't trust us. He's not being respectful. He's not being kind. Fire him.
And you have to, as a business owner, you have to make these difficult decisions, don't you? So yeah.
I like that we can give those 3 words to staff and know that if they act with those values, they're probably going to make the right decision too, even if we're not in.
And because the other thing was, we were actually meant to see you last summer and possibly this summer for your friend's wedding up in Newcastle. So hopefully that will get rebooked in again for the following year or something like that. But Yvette, it's been wonderful talking to you. I miss you. Big hug. And take care. See you very, very soon. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Lots and lots of love. When I end it cuts off, obviously. Hello. That's so embarrassing. I might have to include that at the end. See you later. Bye. Lots of love. Bye.